And, of course, it's England in the red and white. And Australia already with a good touch from Avellino off the centre pass. And Australia was able to keep England to 32, 28 and 25 goals in that three-test series they played a year ago, Annie. So the Australians have shown they're able to pressure England in possession.
Yes, they certainly can. Mind you, the scorelines between these two nations at World Championship events is often much narrower, around about the 8-7 goal margin. So England has a great ability to build across the years and really peak for Worlds, and that's exactly what they're doing now, re-establishing a lineup.
Cox was off with her second attempt. Oh, replay against Jiva Mentor. So 53-25 in the third test last year, 50-32 and 50-28 earlier in the series. The World Championships, it was closer, 45-37.
Yeah, that was footwork, and it was called by the crowd behind us before the umpire got a whistle to her mouth. It was very light and loose on the feet.
And Mark Caldo, a face well known to particularly Melbourne and generally Australian netball fans.
Well, Mark's a legend in Australian netball. She captained Australia. Very well known, of course, in Victoria as their captain for many years. They largely attribute the high style of shooting in Australia to Mark. And, of course, she coached the Kestrel, so she'd be welcomed here by the Melbourne crowd for sure.
Contact call on Jiva Mentor. McMahon back from injury. And Australia glad to have her back. And it was interesting that, and impressive, Australia got through that New Zealand series without McMahon in the shooting circle.
Well, it's brilliant to see them step up another combination. Of course, Avellino with some flair at wing attack. And Megan Anderson really stepped up this goal attack, so it gives some options to Norma Plummer. And how great tonight. She swung the line again. Chocolate back at centre. It's a Swifts defence end, but not the way they'd normally play it.
Gerard pleased to take the rebound after the shot from Agabisi.
It's Monia's 5th cap for Australia. She's played 2 previous matches against England. She was part of the March tour last year. But this is her second only touch at goal defence for Australia. And
what a delivery to Catherine Cox. Chocolate looking to find Avellino, and as Claire Elsley drifting offside.
The shooters just a little slow to get their second moves out then. They were static after the first moves.
Well, good height for Jiva Mentor, and great reach. Both Cox and Mentor at 187 centimetres.
Well read.
No chance for Chocolate to take that pass, and they're almost in each other's way. McCloma and Elsley. One thrown away.
England towards the end of their series in December against South Africa had a really slick mid-court combination running Tracy Neville, who's quite a veteran in the England side at goal attack, Murphy Clark. Across that line, they were very impressive. And, of course, they've got injuries to those players. 5 significant players not able to take the court for this match, so they're hiding a few of their cards.
And McCloma takes the spilled ball. Just a little lack of fluency in the Australian attack end at the moment. I thought that might be the case.
The poorly placed ball to McCloma. McMahon, of course, with deceptive elevation. You see McMahon with great front position. She's very strong in the air, and the ball was poorly placed. It was a poor option, really, as a choice.
Cox. Oh, Avellino almost didn't have possession.
Was it a wipe or a swipe? It was just a beautiful one-handed flick through.
And they love McMahon at this venue, as he plays so many times for Melbourne Phoenix over the years.
Left-handed scoops it into Cox, who had a good position held.
It's almost like there are no rules when Matt Avellino is in possession. She can do anything she likes, and not necessarily out of the textbook. That doesn't mean she disobeys the rules, that she's got her own set.
She was quite scintillating when she stepped out against New Zealand at the end of last year. It was only in that third test when they did their homework and saw their error of their ways, they decided to double on her. That quietened her momentarily, but she still worked solidly through that match to find the space ultimately.
Great bounce pass from Gerard. Now Cox onto Avellino.
Took the harder option of the two. I'm not sure think she thought they might have opened at the last minute, but of course they stayed glued to the shooter closer to the post.
She's having a great battle with Claire Elsley. Shoulder to shoulder. McMahon is 4 from 4. Tidy return to the Australian team as Avellino finds Catherine Cox.
A beautiful vision to the post. It deserved the goal, and Australia using a lot of options from the centre pass, really changing where Avellino's taking receipt of that centre pass.
As well for England, Australia hasn't converted all their chances. It's 7-0 now. So this is an awesome beginning from the Australians. Cox has that rolled across the rim, taking the rebound. Aspinall, they're trying to play a quick game around the centre third in their attacking circle, England, as we expected, but the Australians are at least as quick. Gilsonen. What a dream for her to step out on court for her debut match, same time as her long-admired skipper Liz Ellis is playing her 100th.
I was absolutely delighted to see her inclusion in the 15. She's one of those workhorses you admire every match, but hadn't quite cracked the top level, let alone in the first match of the series, stepping out on court. It's just wonderful, wonderful story tonight. 9-0 start, Australia. Again, Avellino seeing the options and just toying with the ball to see what would open up for her.
And it's been, well, an injury timeout.
Well, they need to stem the flow. It's really opened quickly against England.
Monica, what a withering burst from Australia to start this match.
Absolutely fantastic, Steve. They can do no wrong, the green and gold. I'm just so impressed with Selena Gilsonen. What a great debut for her. Kath Cox moving the baseline beautifully. Sherelle feeding. And also the good old Nat Avellino just spraying out the passes, controlling the forward line. But hats off to Sonia McClomer and Jiva Mentor. Their heads are turning very quickly in that Australian goal circle.
They sure are. Nat Avellino actually came into the Australian squad the same year that Liz Ellis made her debut, 1993. Nat didn't play for Australia till the next year, and since then Ellis has played 100 games, but Avellino just turning out a 13th time for Australia. An enormous tribute to Avellino that she's forced her way back into the Australian side.
It's quite a brilliant story, and she's so creative. I think there was a question mark for a period over. She had injury risks. She wasn't able to last the quality of her game across a whole match of netball, but she really has turned that around in the last 18 months, and particularly came to attention with her performance at Nationals, and was just, as we said, scintillating through the international series, and great to see she's retained the position.
I think the other thing that helped her get into the Australian side was that successful season with the Southern Sting. Norma Plummer went over to New Zealand to watch that final, and Nat Avellino found herself in the right team at the right time and producing the right kind of form.
Well, exciting for international netball to see the players cross the boundaries of the national leagues. Aspinall, too, having spent time in New Zealand.
Let's see if that little break in momentum can favour England and get them amongst the scoring. Struggling at the moment against the pace and generally sure hands of Australia. I think they probably feel they've still got a bit of room to improve as they turn over a possession for the third time.
Well, England need to make, obviously, a huge adjustment to the speed at which the Australians play. When they're playing one-on-one defensively, they're just being beaten, pure and simple. When they open up to the space a little more, they're good at reading it, they're picking some ball off.
Difficult for them without Clark and Murphy and Tracy Neville.
That was the second only attempt for England, and we're halfway through the first quarter. Doesn't drop for them. It is disappointing to have established that mid-court combination that was starting to go so well. They're re-stringing it for this game.
Oh, what a reach! That's fantastic reach from Jiva Mentor.
It was a last-minute reaction because she was actually beaten by the move.
Mentor playing her 25th game for England. Perhaps this time for Greenway. Obstruction against Ellis. Tamsin Greenway. Finally.
You see here, beaten by the move, but the ball not well placed, and the reach and the reaction at the last minute superb.
Sticky fingers.
sticky fingers. Greenway's timing's quite nice. They just need to settle.
Gerard, quickest to react off the rebound. Ellis in the stretch. Avellino likewise.
Right obstruction.
No look past to the unmarked Gerard. Avellino bobs up again.
Holding goal kicked on the spin.
Well, the move actually cut off the feed to Cox, so Avellino shut that down, but made herself available.
Centre pass for Australia. Chocolate at centre. Interesting to see her there too, Annie.
Yes, it is, but she hasn't missed a beat either, has she? In fact, what she's doing at the moment is playing a very smart linking game. Gerard and Gilson are coming down with such drive in attack, and Avellino putting on so much pace at the front. She really just needs to pull herself out, read the space, and be the link, and she's doing it well.
Ellis tips it to Gerard.
Gerard has had a blinder, and Ellis really must be enjoying sitting behind two such successful defenders at the start of this game. What a weekend for the Gerards. Mark expected to make a debut at fullback for the Brumbies, so they're a bit torn between states and places and positions.
And a feed from Karen Aspinall with the captain's duties in the absence of Olivia Murphy. Ellis. And the swipe from Tamsin Greenway gives possession to Australia.
Well, smart work. They forced the high ball, and Ellis had great position, and of course their elevation is not to be questioned.
Avellino just needing an option. Chocolate provides.
Australia just playing it around on the outside of the circle because the pressure was on McMahon then, and she just took her time to find the space. They're just changing the pace. That was a bullet.
It was. It nearly took out two people.
See here the pressure on McMahon, who dived out of the way, and Cox on the receiving end.
Greenway to Agabizi. Looking for Aspinall. Offside was Chocolate.
And the offside call comes before the contact, so it's what's acknowledged by the umpire.
Greenway shoots over Ellis. And it'll be off.
Well, England haven't looked comfortable at all in this match on their shot. A lot of pressure, of course. The elevation from Gerard and Ellis is superb, but they're timing their jumps brilliantly, and it's putting a lot of hesitation into the English shooters.
1 from 5. It's an ordinary return.
They're shooting at 20%, and I was just looking at their performance, and we've only got Agabizi to go by. She shot 32% against Australia last year, and that was only across 3 quarters. That's the only access she got to them. So perhaps a few nerves out there.
Shot for Agabizi. Contact. Oh, against Gerard, actually. Although, despite the dance between Ellis and Agabizi. You talk about that great sporting family, the Gerards, because Tracy Neville has got just as high a pedigree, but in a different sport, with the brothers Phil and Gary playing for Manchester United in England.
Oh, the Gerards can do that.
Yeah.
No, it's a great story. And the brothers very supportive of Tracy's endeavours. What we have is Tracy Neville with a knee injury. Newton, a superb defender for England, is out with a knee. Jade Clark, unfortunate, was running beautifully at wing defence for England, but injured an ankle in the lead-up matches here in Australia to this game. Of course, England has been working tirelessly with practice matches against Victorian club sides, and I understand a touch against the Phoenix as well in one of those matches.
Chocolate kept it in. A blind pass, found the right coloured uniform, but it's turned over.
Oh, recovery.
Well, it's scrappy, but it's kind of skillful in its own way. A lot of turned over ball. And McMahon on the baseline for a 12-2 lead.
Sherelle's been testing the ankle, that's for sure, and she's come up good. Australia averaging 75% in goals. England 29%.
Aspinall. Greenway. Back to Elsley. Ellis came out, almost fumbled.
Well, Liz exploiting what was the disorganised England attacking line. The moves all coming too soon and then going sideways. So she just waited and sat back and read it beautifully.
come in, you come swap sides. Thank you. Can you...
I think they're trying to set the defender away from the shooting arm of McMahon, who was taking the penalty, and keep her on court, not off court. Beautiful speed along the base.
And it's a twice. It's with McMahon again. And for a 14-2 lead. 90 seconds left in the first quarter at the State Netball and Hockey Centre, where Australia's putting England to the sword very early. Norma Plummer's got to be pleased with most of what she's seen. I think she would expect a little bit of scrappiness.
Looking at the penalties, England far more costly than Australia in this first quarter. And that can be not being used to the speed and also the inability of their combination. Australia, with the 14 turnovers, attempts, Australia certainly dominating with regard to possession.
Pretty even distribution of goals between Cox and McMahon, 6 and 8 respectively, 0 and 3 for Agabisi and Greenway. Oh, nice touch from Elsley, and then a much heavier one into Avellino. Australian players are out the back warming up, all hoping to get a touch in this match. I think Monica Lam's probably quite right that Norma Plummer will go to the bench fairly deeply if Australia continues this dominance.
I think so, and should be mindful of players like Sherelle, who is coming back from ankle surgery. You don't want to leave her out there too long and be exposed to some random injury again. So should be careful with the players and protect them, as well as bring others into the match to get a feel looking ahead to Com Games.
Obstruction against Gilson. Flips the ball to Eziogu. Eziogu's not been much of a presence in this first quarter at wing attack for England, and that's all there'll be. Well, a pretty impressive opening quarter. Underway in the second, and no changes to this Australian line just yet, maybe after half-time. Well, he suggested that Eziogu wasn't having a lot of impact at wing attack, and Agabisi's made a way out there. Aspinall moving from centre to wing attack, Elsley from wing defence to centre. Siddall is on at wing defence.
Yeah, the mid-court wasn't holding, and Mark Caldo's basically pushed it through, introducing Siddall, who's a strong defensive background and can cover the circle, to wing defence. She'll also add some drive, and then it settles Elsley, who was one of their best performers, I thought, into that centre role. So it's the middle that Caldo's hoping to gain more from.
And don't like to see this. Mentor has twinged in the right knee by the look of her concern. And the last thing that England want with a squad already slightly depleted of injury on this tour. It's certainly going to sort them out when they go to New Zealand and play the Silver Ferns.
The innovators introducing the revolutionary new tri-grip technology.
See how Jiva Mentor might have sustained this.
Are giving Netball Australia the edge. Where are those boomsticks?
It didn't look that awkward. Just seemed to spring out of the landing okay.
And she really just jogged herself out of the contest and walked back, then made the call, but certainly they're erring on the side of caution. Options, as you say, a little restricted for Mark Caldo. I mean, Siddall can go back into the circle, and Elsie could return to wing defence.
Well, she'll be hoping to play through it by the look of the way she jumped to her feet. They'll be calling for reinforcement shortly, I think, the England team, and it's a long way to come. So Cox to take the shot, 16-3 up. And she's 7 from 10. McMahon 10 from 11. Providing the usual speed and enthusiasm around the circle. Cox. Oh. really had to fend off the defender, Sonia McCloma.
I was thinking it was almost a basketball move. There was the hold, the feel, and arms everywhere. And Cox did very well to hold her form in the air and offload the goal.
Wasn't far removed from an arm bar, was it?
Beautiful play from Australia. Would appear to be a set play that really changed the angles on the outlet from that backline throw-in. Just came unglued down in the circle.
Well, so confident is Monia Gerard in this lineup already. She's directing traffic all over. That's her manner. That's precocious talent.
It was a nice move that drew both the forward defenders across to the side, brought the centre in the pocket, which doesn't often happen, and it gave a lovely clear drive that way for Gerard through the middle.
Not this time for Cox, falling out the back of the court. As we nearly had Amy Siddall in our laps. Avellino. Contact against Kath Cox. Mentor will take it for England. Pausing call against McMahon. Crowd a little quieter in this second quarter.
I think they've fallen into the role of observers, probably delighting in Australia's skill. Observers more than barrackers, I think.
Elsley at centre now. Wing attack is Aspinall. After a first quarter that saw their mid-court outplayed by an Australian combination that wouldn't have played together at test level.
No.
Chocolate, Avellino and Gilsonen. Special presentation coming up at the end of the match for Liz Ellis for her 100. A few of them went down here. Ellis.
Ball goes against Gerard ultimately in that play for the very last movement.
But it's actually an English player who holds the record for the most number of test play, Kendra Slavinsky, or others might remember as Kendra Lowe. 127 games for England. That's some achievement. And Irene van Dijk's closing in on that.
I think it's the advantage, too, of crossing the border to Ireland and Wales a lot.
Irene van Dijk just a dozen behind it. Well, good determination from Aspinall. Looked like it was headed for Gilsonen. Siddall. It's hard work, progress, but they find an open Greenway.
Lizzie Ellis going right out to the left. Must not have noticed that Gerard was playing high to her right. Needed to be the one to protect the post.
That's better. Busy. That's not. And she's 1 from 6. But England have scored the last 3. And they're 3-all in this second quarter. So Mark Caldo's let's pull the right reins here. Cox. It's a great reach that Jiva Mentor has. Into the corner for Aspinall. Greenway.
Gerard working really hard to hold good rebounding position. And it pays dividends for Australia.
The Australians in that first 15 minutes surprised even themselves, Annie. They not quite got the spark they had in the first 15 minutes. McMahon. Good timing on the jump from Mentor. Taken down by McCloma. Elsley swings it across to McCloma. And Elsley offside.
Again, the outlet ball picking up centre. Very decisive move by Australia. Clears it well.
Only 6 minutes gone, second quarter. Lovely pass from Chocolate on the run, off balance almost, and a McMahon shot that normally would have gone. Kath Cox to finish off. And she gets her 10. 10 also from McMahon at a slightly better percentage.
Nice work off the line from Avellino, who continues to vary the way she approaches the centre pass, keeps mixing it.
Playing almost as if there was no whistle. So quick to take the penalty. And Australia scored 3 without answer. And up to the transverse line. Siddle finding Elsley. Across to Aspinall. And Agabizi just not on the goals at the moment.
Now, the move was timed nicely by her. It gave option in the circle for the feeder, but they're just not able to finish.
So Gerard gets it set. Gilsonen was available. Cox.
Great take from McMahon, who was trying to hold a space close range to the post. Cox doing the work on lead in goal.
Yeah, well, McClellan was a little slow to understand what was going on and didn't move from McMahon's space.
Shooting practice.
Cox and McMahon both with 11 now. A 22-6 lead. We've got to go back a fair way to find a quarter where England had been held to just 3 goals, even against the top opposition.
Yeah, very disheartening for them, and it's to their credit that they've recovered in this second quarter to the extent they have. I mean, we must be fair. They had a new look lineup. They've had to rejig it again. At the moment, they're just a little shell-shocked. There isn't the rhythm or the timing. And you can see some of the shoulders going down.
Ellis, Gilsonen. So 3 Swifts in that back 3 for Australia. And contact will go against McMahon in that clash with McCloma.
By the goalkeeper.
Mentor to take it onto Siddle. Elsley.
There's a float starting to come back into the England play. And I wonder if that's under pressure. That would be something I'm sure Mark Caldo would have been working on to eliminate, to keep it lower, flatter, sharper. But under pressure, you see it starting to float around the edge of the circle. And I've just noticed Lizzie Ellis' eyes are raised and she's starting to sniff around at that.
Avellino in the corner. Tossed at the feet of McMahon. Gets a better return ball and through hands almost. It was a great reach from both McClellan and Mentor.
It is, but it's something they tend to overcompensate on because that's one of their strengths. They spend a lot of time recovering their distance, stretching over the shot and giving up the contest on the first ball.
When the airship went around before, it was spitting out those ping pong balls. If you caught one,
so the injury is to Arma Agabizi. And it's time for England to gather their thoughts. There's the Australian 2 not in the squad for this match. Volkswagen and Von Berto, Jane and Natalie.
The third being Alison Broadbent, who has a cloud over her knee, and they're just going softly with that.
Eloise Southby-Haldish on the left there. And she's be looking, I guess, over the next year or so, maybe get way back into the Australian side. Peter Jerson was it as well.
Eloise, like Sherelle, coming back from ankle problems through summer, back on court training.
Looking forward to our half-time entertainment, but still about half of this second quarter to go. It's the big match, Australia versus
England reshuffling the positional bibs again. Siddle stays at wing defence, but Cockrell has been introduced to goal shooting. You can see quite easily on that shot. A lot more height being introduced to the England circle.
Susan Meany.
Susan Meany?
Yeah, expecting a baby. She's out of netball for a bit.
Well, I'll accept that excuse, and our congratulations go to her.
It's not an excuse, that's a joyous reason.
A joyous reason.
Congratulations to Susan and husband. Avellino. Through to Kath Cox. And, always looked on, but she was quick to follow it in case she wasn't right. 25-6, Australia.
Oh, great ball and taken well by Cockrell, who's just been introduced to the game for England. Aspinall working nicely off the transverse line then, controlling the attack. And it should give a different feel to the England circle now with that height introduced.
Well, it says in the England team profile she's only 179 centimetres. I'm going to add a few to that.
Oh, don't tell Liz Ellis that, because she's shadowing her.
She's 185 plus. McClomar. Aspinall.
Advantage obstruction.
Greenway takes it laterally.
And they've slowed the pace down, and that's a steadier approach from England.
Elsley. Touch from Ellis. England ball.
Touch from Ellis, but not too much on the feed. The feed really was poorly placed there.
Offside, Australia. Wing defence.
It didn't give due respect to the talents of the Australian circle defenders.
Elsley to Cockrell. Ruth Cockrell, better a game in the Australian National League. Commonwealth Bank Trophy teams are all named after birds. Cockrell.
Yeah.
Okay, that was drawing a long bow, wasn't it? No bow is too long.
You know, I just think you're setting the benchmark for 2005 very low.
That's as low.
Now, come on.
Yeah.
Just here.
McMahon. And evens it up at 13 apiece. Kath Cox, Sherelle McMahon, a good shooting goal for goal.
Australia averaging 79% in goals. Oh. Avellino putting some speed on the end of the move so that she could receive that pass. Good move from Cox. She's timing the work around the post nicely. Brings up her 14th for the match.
27-8. But a better quarter from England. They've picked up 5 goals and still got 3 minutes left in the quarter. Held to 3 in the first quarter. A superlative defensive effort from Australia.
Cockrell looking for that back space for the hold, but she works very hard on it. Right at the end comes off and puts a forward move.
She and Liz Ellis working very hard off the ball. And the hard work is rewarded with a turnover eventually.
Just too easy, the progress down court for Australia. In 2 passes, they're almost to the attacking transverse.
Avellino was available to the right. Cox was working with McMahon.
A little too fancy for their own good then, I think. She tried the fake there so that she could just flick it on to McMahon, but the first and obvious was probably the goal.
Cox has edged 2 goals clear of McMahon. We've got a little wager going. That'll be no good, would it? You wouldn't want to be getting greedy in that circle. You never did that, did you?
No. Well, I don't know. You've told all our other secrets tonight. Do you want to give a few more away?
I was asking innocently. I really didn't know.
Nice play on that last centre for Australia. On lead for the centre pass was McMahon, and Avellino just set up a hold. She was going to drop into the pocket. Didn't eventuate, but it was a pretty manoeuvre. McMahon a little late on the challenge.
Contact goal shooter, penalty Australia.
And there's a contact off the ball against Ruth Cockrell. Australia away again.
Advantage contact.
Sorry. Gilson, Gerard. Avellino lets it go. Not intentionally. And it skipped a couple of players and looked like it was headed for Cockrell.
Oh, Rebillion's in the game.
Yeah, thank you. That's 1 possession.
Can we fit that on the stat sheet?
No, don't think so.
England are trying to force balls that are just not there. The last 2 deliveries into Cockrell have been poor, put her under a lot of pressure.
Liz came up with that ball with a beaming smile on her face because it went through about 4 sets of hands, but untouched, if I can put it that way. Cox. Oh, all but. And she's 15 from 20. McMahon 13 from 16.
Well, the wheels are falling off England just for the time being as they run it into half-time, and I think it's simply out of frustration. They've also had to cope with several changes to the line across the match. Australia, no need, although expect to see some new players introduced in the second half.
Great understanding, Avellino and Cox. Avellino delivered that ball just as Cox took off towards the post. It landed right where she needed it. Siddall. Wilson, and what do you think? Had a good debut.
Gilson has made a great start to her career in green and gold.
I think they're really interesting selections from Norma to pick Chocolate at centre when we've seen her at wing defence for Phoenix, wing attack for Australia, and now centre. And with Gilson stepping up to this level seemingly comfortably, there's another option there. And it's a shooter, and Catherine Cox out to goal attack. So it's McMahon getting the break. Shin is indeed on. And back three unchanged for Australia. Oh, beg your pardon. National Chocolate's gone to wing defence. And England made changes as well with Dunn on goal shooter. So Cockrell not lasting too long in that position.
Come out. Set.
Well, Cockrell is there. I beg your pardon. Cockrell's at goal shooter. Oh, it is done. Okay, now we've got the story straight. It's done that it's goal shooter. It was done in the second quarter as well. They told us the wrong player.
We were well and truly done by the information we were given.
Okay. Well, yeah, we're only as good as the information we get. That's the lame excuse we offer at that point. Ellis, second attempt. Shin, Cox. Chocolate to Avellino.
As we expected, McMahon may well have been rested throughout this match, so Cox now steps forward and does the workload at goal attack.
Neil shooting from well out. The first attempt, second in fact.
And Mark Caldo asked of England to be a little more careful with the delivery of the ball, cherish possession. There's a lot of wasted ball, and we talked about the fact they were just forcing it to things that weren't on. She's also asked for a sag defence. They have been beaten one-on-one, and she said, right, I want a full sag, everybody to come off, shut down the space, let's contest it that way. So it's commitment to a new tactic she's asking from England.
Done at 187 centimetres. There you go, the mystery's solved. Cockrell probably is the height that they gave her in the program. Neil, Cox, and Avellino.
Oh, great screen, and it opens up for Sinner Neil. Beautiful play from the Australian shooters. Well read by the feeding staff.
It's a very fit-looking Sinner Neil.
Lean and mean in 2005, Sinner Neil.
Soon as whether you drop a little bit of strength.
Yeah.
Get the perhaps added mobility.
Yeah, she is lighter, but they will keep an eye that the power ratio keeps up. Certainly hasn't lost any speed. Lightning pass to Cox, almost too much on it. And it does raise the question of committing the shot to the post rather than the offload.
Ellsworth.
Moni Gerard just attracting some whistle at the start of this third quarter, coming in late.
And done. It is, isn't it?
I'm just playing with you.
Don't. Rachel Dunn. It is. Shin. Nope. A bit ambitious from Gerard, or just a poor execution on the bounce pass.
Well, since we got a name right, Dunn's on fire. She's put up 2 or 3 consecutive shots and looking more comfortable.
Played strong, done good, as Jack Gibson might say. You could put him in the commentary chair here beside us.
Because Cockrell good just doesn't work, does it?
You could get away with Cockrell flying, but...
You tried that on Dunn. Sweet shot from Catherine Cox, her 19th of the match. Aspinall with the workload in attack. But well read by Chocolate, good position, and a little bit of retaliation from the England skipper. 2-on-1 back in the circle for Sinner Neil. So she just hovers and then she splits them by taking the move to the edge of the circle.
Shin just waiting for Kath Cox to arrive confident it would happen. And number 20 for Catherine Cox from 26. And a more than respectable 77%. Whoops, just misread the move from Sin O'Neill, who darted right instead of left.
Everybody wanted that intercept. Avellino, Shin and Cox all with eyes to that high floating ball.
Elsley the contact. Shin. Holding call against McCloma.
Go again, both go again.
Good result for Sin O'Neill. 3 from 4. Oops, and it's just a little loose. Aspinall cleans up. Back to Elsley. And on to Dunn.
Nice delivery then. One of the better ones of the match for England. And Greenway smart in that she pulled the back space on Monia Gerard then. Monia loves to come flying through at the last minute. She's just starting to suss out that move and using the space behind her.
Cox.
Good shooting from Catherine Cox, who's really had to up the work rate in this third quarter since moving forward to goal attack.
It's against Monia Gerard, so Chocolate steps into the defensive third.
Ambitious ball then. Never on, and they're the ones Mark Caldo's referring to. Keep possession, work it around.
Must have been touched.
Touch was enough. We'll credit Kath with the touch. The backup support play was from Neil. Offside makes it a free pass just inside the circle, and Neil's so quick to play it.
And just for those who don't know the over a third rule, as we look at this, just explain it as briefly as you can.
Well, it must be touched in each third of the court in progress down court.
And the umpire's got that one right. She definitely got a little touch on that, because we could see from behind the ball deflected after brushing the fingers of Kath Cox.
Well, the touch could be Cox leaving the centre third in the air, touching it. She may land in the next third, but she's left from the middle third, given it the touch. So in each area of the court, you force the team aspect of the game.
Shin. Avellino. Neil breaks. McClellan did a good job sticking with her.
There's a fair bit of body in the contest from England, so Australia just need to be careful on the timing of their moves and protect themselves, protect the space and protect the body. Been a little soft on the follow through then, and I think the smile and the wishful thinking nudged that one on.
A little over 7.5 minutes to go in the third quarter, and Australia running at a ratio of 3-1. It's better than that in the first quarter, 5-1. Chocolate.
The release then from Elsley was exactly what they need. The really quick hands to put it to the circle. The execution was just lacking, but the concepts are there. So you can see that there are the building blocks here for England. And you'd think perhaps across a couple more matches they would adjust well to this contest. Been a bit of a baptism of fire for them.
Think about the Commonwealth Games next year, that England is going to have a couple of great matches. I think of their rivals Jamaica, who they really want a medal in netball in Melbourne next year, England. That's what they're shooting for. They'll need to shoot better than that.
Yeah, Dunn, though, has been useful since coming into the match. She's 6 from 8. So, you know, start the game that way, and a little more ball found for her could have a different story, a different complexion on the game.
Well, they couldn't find it through Ama Agabizi, who was 1 from 8 when she was retired from the team. Elsley, Greenway.
Defending from out of court, but it was a goal, so it's an advantage acknowledgement.
Popped that round the corner of her opponent.
The angles were beautiful then, and that shot showed it so well. Approach to the circle, delightful from Australia. Cox shifts herself just to have both the rebound and an offload option available. Avellino instrumental, goes around the player, keeps the angle coming.
Contact against Siddall. Big physical presence in defence for England. Neil. Oh, runs that one down. Good determination on the rebound.
Penalty Australia.
Avellino.
Still a lot of holding coming from the English defence. You see the arms feeling and holding the players. Australia working really hard to free themselves.
Contact before the whistle, goal defence, goal third.
So New Zealand umpires are onto it.
You're a naughty person.
Alison Cormack and Mandy Nottingham. Although the media guide would have us believe they're not really from anywhere. It's a case of strange paranoia that we have with a neutral pool of umpires. It's got me totally confounded.
I'd love to refer to their allocation being from the international pool. In one of my more flippant moments, I said to Mon, perhaps there is a place or a hotel called the International. There's just a really great pool there. But it's just part of keeping the umpires beyond, you know, patriotism and loyalty to a particular country, operating as a professional body.
Oh my goodness, you've only got to listen to them speak and you know where they're from.
I know.
Avellino to Neil. It's a silliness, I'm afraid, in my view. Cox. 4 minutes left, third quarter.
Double defence now, operating a little more on that Avellino, so she's pulling herself out of the approach for the centre.
Holding, wing defence, penalty Australia. Contact, goal defence.
Contact yeah, up in the circle. It's advanced all the way for Neil's advantage. Oops. And taken by McCloma. Oh, the step.
Well, that's insult to injury. 3 whistles that were ahead of the play, noticing infringements off the ball. Just when they get it back, a soft footwork call.
So Norma Plummer, what would she be making of this third quarter, Annie? It's difficult to tell when you change the lineup how they go by comparison.
I think the scoring rate has fallen a little, at least the flow, but you know, gee, they've established such a great foundation for the game. It's just a matter of really being picky to say there were too many differences. I think Shin is finding her way. It's changed the pace through the middle. She's running at a steadier rate than Chocolate.
I agree. It feels like it might have slowed down a bit.
Yeah, I just looked, it's 14, isn't it?
Yeah, they nearly got the 15 there. So
I think maybe the look of the game is different in that the different speeds of players with Shin now in the middle makes it appear that way. But you're right, they're on 15, so the scoring rate has continued.
McMahon retired on 13 from 16 after a good first half and returning to international netball after a brief break for injury and recovery.
Contact, goal attack.
Contact against Kath Cox.
Perhaps I actually think there's been more whistle interrupt the flow of this quarter that in the things they've addressed. And perhaps that's why the feeling was it wasn't scoring as much. Looking at the penalties, still heavily against England, in fact, blowing out more so. Australia with 30 more attempts in goal than England, and
Siddall.
that reflected in the scoreline.
Elsley.
Oh, no! Absolutely free, and then put another move on away from the free space.
Oh, and done after the Australian pass, not to be. 45 to 15 with 90 seconds left in the third quarter. Oh gosh, what was that? That was a drop from Elsley, went between the legs to Siddall. And done.
Well, done on 7 from 9, so a couple of positive features for England. Aspinall's been one. Dunn has been another since her introduction to the game.
Well caught off the face by Dunn, and the rebound taken, then dropped, then regathered by Gerard. Likes to make clothes. He's got a little business giving people fake suntans. You spray them on. What colour would you like? Sends up to parties and does it.
A little darker, I guess we're hoping.
Or more golden, perhaps.
The other positive for England is they have really made the Australian shooters work hard. Yes, Australia's dominated, but they've had to work very hard to find their spaces.
Ellis Had a strong game in her 100. Vicky Wilson, the only other player to have chalked up the 100 games.
104. Mind you, we were led to believe it was 99 on her retirement. They found the other 5 later when they went back through the records.
In the bottom drawer somewhere with another 5 games.
So that was disappointing for Vicky, because when she retired off the back of Worlds, she retired thinking she was 1 short of the ton. And great news to find out they, in fact, were there, just tucked away.
And Australia, in the end, accumulating 16 goals in that 3rd quarter, with a newish-looking as we start the last quarter. Greenway still on for England at goal attack. So Elsley shifting back to wing defence. Aspinall centre, where she started the match. Eziogu is at wing attack again, where she started the game. Can try and get a bit more out of her in the last quarter.
That's probably a smart idea from Mark Calder. Eziogu perhaps overwhelmed by facing Australia and the performance of the Aussie lineup. She's had time now to sit and have a look at what's going on the court, give her a chance to go back and reassess it, put her game out again.
Australia making some defensive changes and up the front as well, with Megan Anderson slotting in at goal attack beside Sinner-Neal to finish the match. Shin stays at centre. Avellino's going to play out the game at wing attack. Chocolate to wing defence. And we've got Fellows and Chatfield on goal defence and goalkeeper. And there's a loose one. Shin's first to it.
Well, the move was nice, but the offload unnecessary. It ended up flat and parallel and really deserved to be eaten by the Australian defence.
So Chocolate and Avellino, the only 2 Australians to play out the whole game. And Avellino, the only one to finish where she started. Well, that's the kind of versatility that coaches dream of building into the side. You never know who's going to be out of form one day, suffer an unexpected injury.
Well, you look at Avellino, she's equally versed in the goaling circle. Anderson equally versed at wing attack. You really can play around with this line. And what you get then are players who are very empathetic and sympathetic to the workings of the circle and outside. They know the movement in the circle. They've been there.
Chocolate just thrust out her right hand to force the turnover. Obstruction against Greenway. Fellows across to Chocolate. Out comes Anderson.
You know, the beauty of Megan Anderson is that she can come from the bench and immediately assess the rhythm and the timing of the game. She's just a master of that. So they really have got some great players able just to slot on without missing a beat.
I think Megan Anderson at 30 is a quicker player than she was at 25. Supremely fit and quick.
That was unfortunate then for Greenway, who made the right move and just tripped over the foot of Demelza Fellows, hit the deck, missed the ball.
Australia's got the last goal of the 3rd quarter and the first 2 of the last. So it's a 48-16 scoreline. 12 minutes left in the match. South Africa series starting next weekend in Perth on the Saturday evening, moving on to Adelaide midweek and then back here to Melbourne for the 3rd test. 2 tests also across the year against New Zealand, one in late June and then one in New Zealand, October.
Can't wait.
And then a trip to Jamaica. So Australia's looking to get competition against all the top sides before running to the Commonwealth Games.
A very full calendar for them. It's the first time as well that they've tried to keep Australian commitments away from Commonwealth Bank Trophy commitments for the players. So it's quite clean, and the players are, you know, how they plan their entire campaign leading Commonwealth Games is really there to facilitate their commitments to both sides. So it's the first time they've moved the calendar that way.
It's a tight one, though, that June test against New Zealand. There's no break in the Commonwealth Bank Trophy, but they're forcing in a match on a Wednesday night against New Zealand. But the flow of the National League will continue. Neal.
Great rebound. Good timing from Sinanil under pressure from those long arms in the...
There's a lot of hand on the ball.
There is.
The shot.
Over early.
Yeah.
Over early, hand on.
Not quite sure why the umpires are allowing that when we can see it as clearly as we can from further away. Help me out here, Annie. Are they interpreting it differently? Letting it go?
I don't know why
Sick
they
of
don't
blowing the whistle?
Then again, we could be wrong.
Oh, no. Have a wash your mouth there.
That was a silly ball from Fellows. Avellino was coming through with speed, but was entering the forward line. She wasn't expecting to pick it up virtually in the back of the head.
Done. Cleaner build-up from England to pick up their 18th goal, and it's 2-all. And not many goals scored in the first 5 minutes of this last quarter. As Yogu drifted offside. McMahon and Cox, 13 from 16 for Sherrill. Catherine, 25 from 31.
Catherine Cox on caretaker duty as vice-captain end of last year with McMahon's absence, and McMahon, of course, picks up that position now that she's back in the side. Well read, Chocolate.
So both Cox and McMahon, 81%.
That was fine play from Australia. Great vision from Chocolate.
Step against the Australians then.
I didn't see that one. I was watching Megan. I need to see a replay on that. I know, though, that her footwork is so clean and fast that at times she's picked up for it unfairly.
Fellows picked up the loose ball. To come back to Australia after Izyogu tried a little thief in the night act with Chocolate. Anderson.
Thief in the night with Chocolate's like a midnight snack, Steve.
Yeah. What was that about?
Under pressure.
What was that about a benchmark being too low set by me? Come on.
It was a challenge, though.
Yeah.
It was low, but it was challenged. I'm up for that. That was good pressure over the shot of Anderson.
Neil. Oh, gosh. Oof. A juicy 3 seconds. Neil, 10 from 18.
Breaking call against Izyogu. Gives the ball back to Australia.
And a step call that time. A smiling Sinanil in no mood to dispute, only to agree.
Well, it's entertaining, but a little discipline has gone out of the game just in this final quarter.
Chatfield.
She sat really close on the body then, and that took the contact before she came off and forward to the ball.
Australia's centre pass. Shin to take it. Halfway through the last quarter, 50-19. Australia did score 50 or more in each of the 3 tests against England last year. Well, what an adjustment having to be made by Anderson to escape the reach of McCloma.
I was just thinking that they really need to be accurate with the placement of the ball, because the reach from McCloma and Mentor are just incredible. I don't even know that they exploit it to the full extent. When you watch sometimes over the shot, they've sagged a little.
Greenway. Chocolate onto Fellows. Adelino, Shin. A good run with Aspinall. A causing call against Sonia McCloma. Anderson from longer range. Shoots truly. Only 6 goals for the Australians in 9 minutes, so it might less fruitful last quarter, this one. Mark Caldo. Australian coaches, Annie, have had an impact in so many countries in the last 5 or 10 years.
Well, of course, Jill McIntosh too has been doing some development work with South Africa, and Australia, of course, as we mentioned, face 3 matches against them starting next week. But yes, Australians and New Zealand coaches have been doing a lot of development work and specialist work.
Yes, Lynn Parker was over in New Zealand. Was in England. This was Waitamanu.
Waitamanu.
Jane Searle had a short stint with South Africa to help them out.
And of course, players. Abby Tear has been part of the England lineup. Other players have been Singapore in World Championships.
Oh, kept in by Senanil. Creatively, Avellino.
Oh, beautiful work. Avellino really backing Megan Anderson then. She was watching her and she knew she would have the turn and the timing to find some space near that post, and she sat it out. Great understanding between the two. You see it swing to Avellino. Anderson takes on the defender and then just waits.
Done. And brought down by Chatfield. The chocolate. Fellows. Oops. I thought it was going to be too big for Anderson, but it was nicely weighted from De Melza.
Nice split from Neil to give her a closer range shot, and she's smooth on the shot. So Neil with 11 from 19 is below what she'd like. She's shooting at 58%. Anderson at 64. Cox and McMahon both at 81%.
Neil. A little over 4 minutes left. Australia will take this one comfortably. They were expected to win it, maybe not by this margin, but they've come here a little under strength because of injuries, England.
Poor skills then from Dunn, who lost the handle on the ball and then compounded it with contact.
And there was absolutely no reason to blow the whistle. Give me some advantage, please. It's Australia in possession up the court. But the umpires in a scrappy game have probably overall done a pretty good job.
That was great play from Australia down the court. A real crowd pleaser, that passage. We should perhaps spare a thought and send a cheerio to Marg Molina, Australian manager, and a husband and family who were caught up literally in the tsunami disaster. Our thoughts are with you guys. No, it's been a tough road. We hope to see you on the sidelines soon, Mark.
Carol Byers managing the Australian team at the moment in Marg's absence. Greenway on the baseline. Fellows thought she had good distance and reach. Greenway gets set and wasn't going to get a second attempt. I'm all set for a Greenway, the architect of that goal, but you know, not going to get the chance, I think.
You've already used it.
Yeah, I know. She's had so few opportunities here in the last quarter.
Once again, feature of this quarter has been the understanding between Avellino and Anderson, who are sharing organisational roles in the forward line for Australia, instrumental in Australia securing the last 10 goals.
That connection between Anderson and Avellino at the Netball Nationals for New South Wales was really impressive, and I think it helped Avellino get back into the Australian side.
They both have fantastic vision, great timing, quick hands, so they make it easy for those who play around them.
Bush, not even close, that delivery, I'm afraid. Chatfield, chocolate. Obstruction against Dunn, who was running off as though she'd done it cleanly. No fooling Alison Cormack. Chocolate not able to keep it in. Bit of a rush of goals from Australia in the last few minutes. They've got it up to 14 for the quarter, so the ratio nearly restored, around 15 or better. It's a higher return than any of the 3 tests this time last year against England. Greenway. And Dunn this time trying to help block out the defence. But that freed up Chatfield to take the rebound. Shin.
Well, it was smart work to back play it and drive herself on, but then the connection was poor from that point. Needed after the cut and drive the vision further down to the circle.
Contact against Neil. And pleased to see that Jiva Mentor has seen through that early injury to the knee. Looks like she played through it okay. And England need all their troops available for upcoming matches here. Not against Australia anymore, but and then on to New Zealand. So they have 3 tests, I think. And that's the case. Neil. Should be the last goal of the test match. 15th for the quarter. Done. Won't get the chance to add another for England.